Welcome back to the Life, Unity, and Freedom channel. I'm your host, Max. So, we all know that we have so many Republican lawmakers, governors, senators, congressmen, nationwide that bend over backwards for the current lame, pathetic, so-called leader of this country. And I guess they don't have a problem, or they don't even they don't seem like they care that this guy Trump really thinks that he is a king and wants to become a king. And not only that, but we have videos like the one that JD Vance posted. Showing the same thing, that they're pretty serious about him becoming a king. So it's crazy, it's just crazy to me that they're doing this. Now, because of this, I want to go over some information with everyone, and I hope that MAGA and Republicans are watching this so that they can understand what it is that they are, in approval of. So let's just go over this really quick here. Now, what are the disadvantages of a monarchy? Which is what happens when we have a king, right? Well, this include the lack of democratic accountability and representation, which is kind of what's happening now, right? Potential for abuse of power. We know that's happening. And perpetuation of inequality. The hereditary nature means a monarch's ability is not based on merit, and the system can be expensive too to maintain, with monarchs sometimes having unchecked power or being above the law, which is what Donald Trump thinks he is, above the law, right? He's already showcasing this. So whenever this is the case, no voter choice. So voters across the board wouldn't have a choice. The public does not vote for the head of state, making the system inherently undemocratic. And this goes for Republicans and the Democrats and independents across the board. So anybody that is a non-multi-millionaire or billionaire, you're in this category. Limited citizen input. The monarch, not the people, has the final say, limiting citizen influence on government. Again, this goes across the board. Doesn't matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, or whatever. It doesn't matter. Now, the inequality in cost reinforces inequality. The system can reinforce class divisions and inequality, as the royal family is often seen as having a higher status and greater wealth than the general population. So this is something that we see now, and we've seen for decades with, it's not left versus right, like James Tallarico says, is bottom versus the top, which is the working class versus the oligarch. This is what we see now between the bottom class and the oligarchy. They have islands. They have jets. They fly from LA to Atlanta in their private jets, like all these different things, that a normal working class person would never be able to experience, right? Then, of course, we move on to how expensive it is. Monarchies can be costly to maintain, requiring significant government resources and public funding. Public funding, right? That means us. Now, what else comes with a monarchy is having a king. So, when we're talking about kings, we're talking about monarchy. Now, besides that, another thing that we need to point out is hereditary succession is the transfer of an office, title, or estate from one person to a relative, usually following a predetermined order like a family line. Now, this can refer to the transfer of a government position, as in a monarchy, or to the distribution of property upon death without a will, also known as intestate succession. The specific rules for who inherits depends on the context, whether it's legal succession laws or dynastic rules. So this pretty much, in a few words, is that whenever you have a monarchy, a king, when the king passes, then the next in line would be the son, in this case Don Jr. or Baron, or one of his kids, would take the throne after that, and it would stay in the family. So JD Vance, you stay number 2 whenever we have this type of governance. Now, in government and titles, monarchies, the most common example is a hereditary monarchy, where a throne passes down through a ruling family, also called a dynasty, like I was just mentioning. Succession rules, the specific order can be determined by rules like primogeniture, I'm killing the word probably, inheritance by the eldest child, like I was saying, Don Jr., or agnatic primogeniture, inheritance by the eldest son, what I just said. Now, with all this information being said, the founding fathers left Europe fleeing a monarchy. Whoever supports Donald Trump is against the founding fathers. That's just really what it is. So for all the continuous supporters of Trump, just understand that this is what they're talking about. How can you be in favor of being a peasant in their eyes? That's what you're agreeing to. We were fighting against slavery because slavery is a horrible thing and always was a horrible thing, always has been. It's the worst thing. We're human beings. Why would you want to put yourself in that position? Why would you want to have a king with unchecked power? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. How can you want that? Now, if we know that this is what Donald Trump wants, this is the time that we all need to gather together and fight against this. Doesn't matter if it's Republican or Democrat or Independent. Doesn't matter. All the working class Americans need to come together, whether we like it or not, because you might think, Republicans and MAGA, you might think that you're okay with this, with him wanting this. But if this would ever happen, which I really hope it doesn't, believe me, you're going to regret it. You're going to regret it. Well, thank you so much for joining me on another episode, everyone, of the Live Unity and Freedom channel. I am your host, Max. I'll see you again on the next episode. I hope everybody stays safe. Take care of yourselves. Peace to everybody. Catch you on the next one. And thank you for all your support.